Hey guys, welcome back. Joe here again from ScaleFreak.com, coming to bring you bag 5 of the Sakura rear-wheel drive D4 drift kit. In this one here, we go through the whole front end of the vehicle, making sure all the steering and stuff, all the links are set up, and of course, making it all go turn. So, links, knuckles, whatever. Watch the video, check it out. Welcome back to the next video in the series. Today, we're doing bag 5. Now, bag 5 is the front knuckle setup, and it may seem like, okay, one bag for the whole front knuckles, what else? No, man, this is a little different. This is a little more involved with the front end on a rear-wheel drive kit, so there's a couple steps here that I want to make sure that I go over. First, let's set this out of the way because we're going to be dealing with, again, some front knuckles. For this one here, make sure that you have your sharp hobby knife. Make sure you have your 2mm on hand. Whoa, there we go. And hold on, let me just drop all these things out of here. Make sure you got your magnetic pit mat and your parts tray ready for all of your little metal bits. There we go. Now, I'll tell you, when I first set up this front arm system, I was a little, what's the word I'm looking for? I was a fish out of water. It's completely new to anything I'd ever done before. As a racer and a scale truck driver, this is definitely something that's been completely out of my realm with this one. But building it, I was like, wow, that's absolutely fascinating how well that goes together and how its design is. And of course, how easy it is to adjust. Because remember, guys, a lot of adjustment goes into a drift kit. So remember, trim up these parts a little bit. Make sure you get all the extra burr and stuff off of it. And be careful not to cut yourself, because that happens. So, bop, there we go. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you how one side goes together, and then you guys could do the other side on your own. So first, we've got the arm right here. Oh, let me trim it up. Bop, bop. It is a bit of a different system, right? We're talking about almost like a captured ball setup. So here's what the front arm looks like. We know what the lower arm looks like. Ta-da. Ta-da. This is the top part. Of course, we've got this set up so that it hits into the balls that have been put up to the top of the shock tower already, or the top of the front bulkhead cover. Now, when you're going through here, let me see here, there are a couple little, where'd they go? They're almost like turnbuckles, but they're tiny. Now again, the idea behind this is make sure that you line up the notches. Each one of these things has a notch. Line up the notches to the same way that you've got it set up on the back. That way, when you're doing your adjustment, it's all exactly the same throughout your kit. So if you turn up or you turn down, it's going to be the same. Now, first what I like to do is I will find the end. So this little guy right here. And again, just do that, just to trim it up a little bit. And find the tool that hangs onto it. So I will go through and pre-thread this a little bit right here. Use your little pliers, and ta-da! Screw that sucker on. Now remember, screw it on, not all the way, because it will eventually just push itself through, and you don't really want to do that, because then you got to go buy new parts before you're done fixing or building your kit. And then of course, like I said, what I always do is I always pull it back off. But for this case, I'm not going to do that just yet. The reason being is because I actually need the end of this to help me get this screwed in to here. So I'm just gonna do this here just to start it off so I can get it to go. And then as soon as I can get in here, you see there's a notch inside that. I just need to get that in there a little bit. Keep going, little dude, keep going. Eventually it'll get to the point where I'm actually unscrewing the end of this because there's so much tension on it, and that's when you use this little tool to finish the job. So you can go in there and just keep cranking it away to get it the rest of the way in. Now again, what I'm doing is I'm just pre-threading it so that I can get a little bit of that grease in there so that later on, if I ever have to do it, it will be even easier for you to make adjustments in the future. Now this top part, what you're adjusting with this is adjusting the top angle of the tire. So if you actually turn it in while it's on your kit, it will create a whole ton of camber. So it'll slant your tires inwards. And if you turn it all the way out, it will actually turn the tires outwards, which is not really what you want. So give me 1 second here. Now I'm just going to unscrew it here. I want this thing right out of the truck. Grab my little tool. Just like that. It's super easy to get out when you have the right tools. And then now what I'm going to do is finish pulling this apart because I want to get the end of this off as well, because I want to put the grease in there too. Oh, turn it the wrong way. Hold on. So what I'm going to do now, just like the steps of building the turnbuckles before, is get a little bit of this udder butter, throw it on the end here. And again, this is just so that later, somewhere down the line, if I have to make an adjustment, it'll be much easier to do because there'll be that little tiny bit of layer of grease in there that will allow me to make adjustments a little bit easier. And then now what I'm going to do, because this is going to get screwed in, put a little bit more on this side and start to thread it in this way. And of course, use the tool. And then you got to use this bad boy here to get it going. Now what the goal with this one is, obviously you can't measure the internal. What this one here is going to do is it's giving me the overall measurement of 51.8 millimeters is how long this needs to be. So I'll screw this in like this until I feel this is about even. Kind of like that. And then what I'll do is I'll grab this, set this up, center it out, zero it, and make this 51.8. So 51.8. Lock it down and look for overall length. So right now it's still too long. So I'll turn this in a few. Try it again. Turn this in a few. Try it again. Oh, almost there. One more. Perfect. That fits. So 51.8 in there. And now if I ever have to make adjustments in the future while this is actually on a kit, all I have to do is adjust that little link that's on the inside. See how that is? On the inside of there, just use the tool and you crank it one way or the other and we'll actually make the adjustment for you. Now the second part is to build the upper link, because this does, or sorry, the toe link, because this of course does have to get connected to steering. So let's go ahead and build that. So there is again one of these little bad boys here. There it is. And you thread this on the same as the other ones. Now I'm not going to bother showing this one on the camera because really, how many times do I have to show you how to build links? Just make sure you follow the instructions as to exactly which direction these things are supposed to be facing, because this one here you'll have one ball cup pointing up and one ball cup pointing down because it's going to get connected to steering. So give me 1 second. With the two arms and the two toe links already built and built to size, let's start talking about how we're going to build the actual knuckle itself. So what we're going to do, we'll do the front knuckle here. This one is going to be the left. So I'm going to do it to this corner here. Again, get the knife here, trim it up a little bit, make sure everything looks good. And then what we're going to do is first find the bearing. Whoop, there's a bearing for the inside. Press fit that guy in there. Erg. Remember, make sure they're going in square, because then you wind up what I always do. There we go. Got it in now. Haha. And then of course the bearing for the outside, press fit that sucker in there too. And then pick up the part off the floor when you toss it. And then of course just fit this guy in here to make sure it fits okay. And if you've got to make any adjustments, make them now. There we go. Everything is press fit in there now. Sometimes if you're going to cross push stuff in, you got to give it some force. So again, like before, you got that little drive pin that's going to go in there. I just use that little dab of grease in where the hole would be. Slide that drive pin in. Ta-da. And then of course the hex grab that and slam that on. Boom, so that's on there. Now, this one here is going to be held on by the top and the bottom by balls. So you're going to need a few. Now, first, let's talk about the steering one. There is a spacer and there is a longer ball. That is going to go on the underside, so the underside here, because the steering cup comes up from the bottom. So throw that on there, grab your 2 mil wherever you put it, and build that up from underneath, just like this. Ta-da! And then, of course, grab the 2 other ones that are the shorter ones. One goes on the top and one goes on the bottom. These ones here are 2.5 mil, so make sure you grab yourself 2.5 mil. One second here. I, of course, am using my 2.5 mil that is a ball bearing end, so it's a little hard to get it started for the first time, but once it's in, it goes. So there we go. And of course, your second one goes on the bottom. Now, it's a really neat system because you need to get the absolute maximum amount of steering on this thing. So the fact that the top and the bottom are held in with balls means that in theory, if it wasn't connected to something, it could almost spin completely around. Now, with this, the way the setup is, you can get so much steering throw off this thing, the tires will actually turn over on top of themselves and hit your shock. So you've got to dial that back just a little bit, because when it hits your shock, the front tire will stop and your kit will spin. So there, I've got that built right there. So now what we're going to do is connect this to the kit itself. So I know I said I was building the left, but it turned out I built the right. So what we're going to do is just slide this stuff out of the way, and this is going to go here. So first the bottom clicks in like that, and what you will find are these tiny, 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 tiny little screws, much like the screws that we saw before when we were doing the tensioner for the belt. Now, on the bottom of those arms, you will see a tiny little hole right in the front, and you just put that little screw in there, and basically what it's doing is it's working like a clamp to make sure that this stays in. But please remember, before you do it, make sure this thing still is free to move. You don't want to clamp it down too hard so that this is stiffen up, because you can crank this thing right down and this thing will get super stiff. So now already I just put too much and now it's really stiff. So I'll back it off a little bit like that to make sure that it still has the strength, but it's still very, very easy to move. And then of course the second part is going to be the arm itself. So with this one here, we're going to snap the arm on. Again, it is 2 balls against the shock tower. 1, and this thing does take some force. 2, and then 1 on top ball. Bang. And then the exact same thing. Grab that little screw. And the exact same thing. Tighten it down until this thing starts to become a little stiff. And once it does, back it off a little bit so that it still moves freely. So 1, 2, there, and then back it off. So as free as you can get it to move, just like that. And then what you're going to do is you have to put on your steering linkage. So what this is going to do is you grab the right one, snap it on like this. Again, it takes a lot of pressure because these ball cups are awesome. And then snap this one on here. There. So just like that, it's on there. Now watch this. Watch how much steering you get. One way, the other way. One way, the other way. It goes completely front and back. That's humongous. Now you'll notice as well, one side of the outer link is actually angled. Maybe if I flip it over this way, it's angled because when you go to full lock, you can see it actually has to twist around the actual steering itself, which is so neat. Give me 1 second, let me get the other side put together. Now all together we have the front all set up. So I've got both of the front knuckles on as well as the whole front steering system. And like I said, with almost no throw on the servo itself, look at how much steering this thing gets. Of course, this is one of those steps that you want to make sure you go through and get all the measurements correct. Otherwise your geometry is completely shot. So measure as best as you can. Maybe one of those measure once or measure twice, build once kind of setups. But it's amazing how well. And of course, just make sure before you tighten everything down that you just make sure everything still runs smoothly. You don't want it to catch up anywhere because later on it will make a big difference in the kit itself and the finished product. So that's it for this one. This has been the video for Bag 5. Of course, remember, head over to RC Mart and check out the Sakura D4 rear-wheel drive kit, which is what this one is, but you can also get the all-wheel drive kit as well with the same setup, and a lot of these instructions will be the same for both. Of course, please remember to click on the like button below, on the subscribe button above. Put any comments about this kit you have down in the section down below, and of course, please share this throughout your community if you know anybody who could use this information for building their first drift kit as well. And you know what, guys? Don't forget to go check out the whole series of this video. I did a video for every bag just to make sure that everybody knows exactly how it's done. So guys, thank you again for watching the video, and have yourself a great day.